Greetings and welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, we are going to be talking today about if I can find my title. Where's my title at? There we are. We're going to talk about the youth and technology. When is too young for tech? Of course, there was one article out this week that I looked at that said, this would be interesting to see. And we're going to be using that and as a springboard. And then Vince shot me a couple articles. And we're going to be looking at a couple other ones. So we are joined here by Vince and Ben, and hopefully someone else jumps on. We were hoping like Quint would jump on so that, we get like a kid's perspective. And then someone else might jump on a little bit later as well. So we'll see. I'll monitor the email as well. Glad to see, Ben, that your 737 didn't go barreling into the ocean. That's a good sign.
No, it did not, but it was fun to catch from the air.
All right, there you go. That's good. Well, and then there's an update just came out to that today that they did find that the pilots were absolutely not at fault. The system actually showed that the pilots disabled that system multiple times, and it kept turning itself back on because the AI really wanted to go to the ocean. So think about that when we think about these automated cars. Of course, we're going to look at the news tomorrow. Like, your Tesla can now choose when to change lanes. Came out the same week we found out that hackers could cause the Tesla to steer into the opposite lanes anyway. Watch the news tomorrow for some updates on that. It'll be exciting. But today we're going to be talking about youth and technology. And we have Michelle is on. Greetings. We have Yu-Gi-Oh! How's it going there? Hunter One. Keep It Techies on. Linux Programmers on. Very cool. Ubuntu's on. It's evening where I am. And KO2610, your number is here. So how you guys doing this week?
Pretty good.
Not bad.
All right. Vince, we always have to know, what's the weather looking like down that way?
It's about 20 degrees C, so I can't remember what that is in Fahrenheit.
That's
70 maybe?
70 or
60
80.
something.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's 54.
We had a massive rainstorm.
Yeah, we got 54F right now, so that's exciting. All right, so before we dive into the articles, first initial perspectives. Now, of course, Ben doesn't have kids, Vince does, and I have spent about the last 15 years mentoring youth, so I'm somewhere in the middle. So, Ben, what's your thoughts initially? What do you think? Just as an outsider looking in on society, coming in with all this tech, what do you think? Is this good? Is this bad? What?
I mean, fundamentally, this is a good idea. It's just the implementation sounds dreadful here, and I'm not even sure there's a good implementation you could have. Mm-hmm. Just as far as the whole, when should you give your kid a smartphone? My opinion is probably something like, could you trust them alone with power tools?
Yeah.
At some age, you should be able to trust that someone understands potential dangers and how to use something properly.
Yeah.
That's the nearest analogy I have.
That raises a question, Ben. When did you have your first shop class where like power tools could legit cut off a finger?
At home or at school?
At school. Let's just use that one.
6th grade?
6th? Yeah, okay. I think ours was either 7th or 8th. I think
ours was 7th.
Yours was 7th? I want to say mine was 8th. I know we had that type of class, 7th and 8th grade. I don't think we touched the power tools until the 8th, though. I'm not sure. And what about home, Ben? What about your home?
Younger. Younger. 8 or 9, 10, okay. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, I didn't have a father, so power tools we just didn't even have any. So
adding to some of the problems I have with some of these problems that on this plan we're going to talk about. A lot of my introduction to a lot of power tools was at times when my parents weren't home and they were around, and I needed to use power tools for an actual project that I was working on, not like anything weird and nefarious. It just, they were there and I knew how to use them.
Yeah, so it's kind of like you could use the same analogy with a gun. A gun is not a horribly dangerous bandit from the world thing. It's something that you need to know how to use. And as long as you have good, accurate training, like we did, me and a kid. Awesome. We got Quint jumped on. Good. We needed a kid's perspective.
Hi, Quint.
How's it going,
Hey,
Quint?
sorry, we just had
Hey.
dinner.
Oh, hey, no problem, man. No problem. All right.
Yeah, I
so,
saw it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw this when I was at dinner,
Yeah.
and I have some thoughts, but I'll let you finish yours.
Awesome. So I took, was it 2 summers ago? I took the kid that I mentor who was, I want to say he was 16 or 17 at the time, I can't remember. And we did a 60-mile bike trip, which of course requires camping in the middle of nowhere. So it was literally from about the center of the state up to the top of the state. It's like 60 miles. And left the car at a friend's house who lived actually just about 5 miles from the end of the trail. But, you already bike 60 miles. What's another 5, right? And so we, what we end up doing is we got a ride and dropped off literally in the middle of the woods, nowhere. And there's no civilization up to the 60 miles. So I'm carrying a firearm because you're in the middle of nowhere. A bear could come out of the woods, whatever else. A psycho could come out of the woods. Who knows? And so it's like before we started the trip, I'm like, dude, like you can't touch the gun, all right? But we're in a safe zone here. Take the clip out, take it out. If you want to look at it now. This is the only time. You train them right, and it's fine. And we need to start looking at technology with the same degree of danger. Vince, what's your early thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just hope that parents just think long and hard and look past a lot of the marketing, because there's a lot of marketing going here with this new plan thing, and think about what the role of technology is with their kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And Quint, go ahead. What's your early thoughts?
Okay, so what did I miss first? Did we go over any articles or anything?
No, we are just introductory comments. And Pizza's
Okay.
watching. Pizza, I'm gonna go ahead and send you the link now on Skype so you can jump on when you get home.
So, I have a few interesting stories. So, the first thing is my parents were more strict about phones, which is a good thing. And I didn't have my first phone until I was 13, when everybody else got their phones in 5th grade.
Which is about 10, right?
Yeah, that's about 10 is when most people got their phones. And so all of my classmates were like, Quint, why don't you have a phone? And I was like, my parents just haven't gotten me one yet. And they were like,
How about
Quint,
my parents love me more?
Yeah. And they were like, just beg for it and you'll be able to get it. And I was like, no. I was still into technology and everything, which is the funny thing. They thought I was weird that I was into all this technology and computers and stuff, but I didn't have a phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so what made my parents give me a phone is that we were coming back from a field trip, and one of the buses broke down. And so we were like stranded on the highway. And so that's when we got back and everything's safe. That's when my parents basically decided that it was time for me to get a phone. But it was weird because I had to use the teacher's phone to call my parents, which was a little embarrassing in 8th grade.
Yeah, a little bit, but You
Yeah,
could just use one of your friend's phones. Why not just use a friend's phone? Everyone else got one,
I don't know.
I was going to say, Quint, though, but is that because you didn't mind because you understood the pros and cons of having a phone at the time?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And the second thing is that I didn't really get into social media until last summer, and I still only have 2 social media accounts.
Mm-hmm.
I have Instagram, which I never post anything on, and Mastodon, which I don't ever post anything on either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I mainly just use my phone that's why I think Lineage is going to suit me well, because that's all I use my phone for, is calling, texting, and looking at emails.
Yeah, either that or a flip phone, All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive in. So, guys, should we look at the plan that kind of inspired this, or Vince, should we look at your articles first? I kind of want to look at your articles last, Vince, if that's cool.
Yeah, check out the plans first.
Okay, so, all right, so let me move things around. All right, so, of course, the first article we're going to look at here is, if my thing kicks on. Whoa, hold on. I got to fix my web browser view here. Okay, you need to go to, I think, this one. All right. So the first article is, of course, we covered this a while ago, but this is Messenger Kids. This very ADD thing that I have a hard time looking at because it's just like so motiony. But this is Facebook's plan specifically for kids. You can download it from the App Store, Google Play, Amazon App Store. And the idea is that it is basically Facebook Messenger for kids. So the difference is they allege they're not collecting a lot of data, which we completely believe Facebook at this point in time, right? You guys know that, right? We can trust Facebook.
Yeah.
So
We totally can.
especially you'll check out the news tomorrow. Wait till the latest thing they just did. Oh boy, it's gonna be so
I'll be
fun.
watching.
Just everybody bring fire extinguishers tomorrow. We're gonna do. All right. But of course they say that, and the other thing is that the parents are the ones who have to approve all the contacts. So the kids could really only be having contacts with approved contacts. And so the idea is that, you put this app on your kids' phones, which I don't know why they wouldn't just download the other app anyway. But then you're supposed to allow them to control it. And then, of course, they can do, more fun for kids. Hey, let's turn ourselves into hideous creatures or something, I guess. I don't know. And then, of course, the parents and the kids can use it to talk to each other. Why is this a selling point? I'm pretty sure that parents and kids can use the regular messenger to talk to each other as well. And of course, this is kind of Facebook's idea, is to get them acclimated. And this is designed, of course, technically a kid's not supposed to be on Facebook until they're 13, according to, COPA laws and the website's policy. But, how do we verify that? Oh, you have to select your age? Gotcha. I'm truly honest about that. But this one is actually geared for kids as young as 6 years old. So, Vince, what's your thought on that? 6-year-old kids on Facebook's Messenger app.
I mean, what is 6? And I would never, ever think about letting her on because... Am I still there?
Yeah, you're still there. It's my camera is not pulling the right feed. So just keep talking. We can hear you. I just got to fix the camera feed.
Because, granted, the parents can limit the contacts, but how closely is a parent going to have time to be able to look at all the contacts that a kid actually has? That's one of the biggest concerns that I have with letting any of my children onto any messaging app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really, this is doing nothing more than getting the kids used to applications, Facebook, social media, young age, which we know, of course, the directors of it, Sean Parker was out, numerous other guys from Facebook were out basically saying how they are making this radically addictive. So getting them into this at 6 years old, to me, this is I'm not sure kids should be allowed on the stuff until maybe 16 or 17 for most cases because of maturity levels. They don't realize the danger they're getting into. Any other comments on this one? Ben, you have comments on this article here?
I mean, the only good thing I can think of by letting your 6-year-old use a messaging app here is if they have to sit and learn how to type to use it.
That's
like at a physical keyboard instead of using their 2 thumbs. Mm-hmm. That's beyond the scope of this, clearly.
It is, but that would be a good thing. Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
At 6, though, but at 6, they're actually still learning to write. Mm-hmm. So shouldn't that take precedence over time?
They can use a pen.
Well, a tablet, like a little Wacom tablet to write?
Yeah, there you go. Quint, what's your thoughts on this Facebook monstrosity?
So sort of to add on to what you said, is that really all this is just to prep them for them to be on Facebook. Well, not really Facebook, but like Instagram and WhatsApp. That's all this is. It's just prep for that. Mm-hmm. And the thing is once I would love to see a study about this, like maybe like 20 years from now, about how kids who use this Facebook Messenger for kids are now like completely addicted to social media as adults because that's what they were raised around as a kid.
Correct. Yeah. And that will be a very frightening study, and it'll probably get buried because it's like the tobacco companies, they did their due diligence and demonstrated that the tobacco wasn't really addictive, only it was addictive, and so they just buried it. Oops. All right. So there's that one we covered a while ago, but this is the article that just came out this week. Verizon has a new Just Kids plan, 5 gigabytes of LTE data and plenty of parental controls. Unlimited talk and text to approved contacts. So following the same approach, let's give this, and I think part of this is like, oh, well, this is safer because only approved contacts can get onto it. And my biggest danger, like, I can't imagine what I would have done with a cell phone at 10 or 11 or 12. It would not have ended well. And I think most people are like that. And the contacts you're talking to that is only the tip of the iceberg that is the problem. It's the ready access to data. And one of my flags is actually this 5 gigabytes. Why don't you have the Just Kids plan that has half a gig? And they need to learn to budget their data use. Which means they can't sit there over the airwaves and stream videos to a device. Maybe put it down a little bit. But of course, the plan is it's from Verizon, 5 gigs of data, unlimited talk and text, and it has 20 parent-approved contacts. So somewhere, the only thing this can communicate, which means the phone company has more data about you, your child, and your communications. And that, for me, is an issue. I would rather just not allow my kids to have a smartphone. If your kids are young enough that they need to have this parent-only approved contacts, maybe it might be better to not allow them on this. Of course, video is restricted to 480p. And then, of course, the Smart Family Premium tool allows parents to also set some screen time limits, track the location of their kids, and put content filters in place. So there's definitely some good things in this. But at the same time, I think it's just kind of a way to get the kids, again, it's like, oh, we're making this safer to kids as an excuse to get the kids onto the technology younger and younger. Any thoughts on this article, if anybody of you guys read it? Ben, we'll start on your end this one.
Yeah, this was what I was talking about earlier, where this is at least philosophically probably a good idea, but the implementation is bad. With a lot of these phones, the only thing Verizon's going to be able to see is the traffic on their network. Mm-hmm. So the 20 contacts, that's going to be SMS. The phone calls, that's going to be through the phone system. If the phone's connected to the Wi-Fi, you're going to need third-party apps to deal with this, or the one that they list, which if you don't have installed has a whole bunch of limitations. Yeah. The network location stuff is the normal cell phone locator. It is not terribly accurate. Mm-hmm. And, or in the case of, say, an iPhone, iMessage is public key encrypted. So Verizon wouldn't be able to read that anyway. It's encrypted on your device, set up to the servers, and back down and decrypted.
Mm-hmm. And same with like Signal and Telegram if you're using those,
Right. So a lot of this just strikes me as not terribly helpful. Mm-hmm. I mean, the optics look okay if you want to look like you care about this sort of stuff to the public, but
yeah, and
I
like
think
you said,
it's going to fall on the parents.
Yeah, most of the stuff that's in here you can do. So like even Nextcloud has an implementation that will basically track and log the location of your phone. Same thing Google Maps does, only this does it through your own personal Nextcloud system. If I were to do anything to track the location of where my kids are with the device, I would do it through that so that I'm the only one with that data, access to that data. And that's kind of the important part. Quint, what's your thoughts on this? Oh, go. Hold on, Quint.
No, I did want to say that there was one good thing I did like about this. It just is a general idea, especially for children, is I think they call it safety mode. It throttles the connection to, ISDN speed after they hit their data limit, which sounds to me like a really good idea for children, because if they're watching a bunch of YouTube videos out at school or wherever else, or they're using up a lot of data, they hit that limit, and their parents aren't going to get hit with an overage, or it's just not going to, they're not going to have enough bandwidth.
Yeah, and that's why I think that dropping that from 5 gigs down, so you can kind of teach kids, kind of like the way we need to teach them the value of $1. Maybe we need to teach them the value of a gigabyte, I mean, that's my thoughts. Anything else on that?
Oh, no, that was it.
All right, Quint, go ahead.
So really, sort of like adding on to Ben's idea, I was just thinking that there are lots of ways. There's probably ways to get around the 20 or 30 contacts, whatever it is. Like, I'm sure that you could probably use other contacts apps and stuff, and then they could like add like their friends' phone numbers and stuff.
And then your parents think that everything's secure, and it's really not, because you knew more about how to get around it, rather than taking the time to learn the technology yourself.
And then really, I do think the 5 gigabytes is overkill. That they really just that's going to teach kids to just watch a bunch of YouTube videos and play Fortnite and stuff on their phones. And this is one thing that I think happen though, is that I think there should be a customizable block list of what what services should be allowed to be used on the data plan. Like, for example, if the parents didn't want their kids playing Fortnite, they could just block that.
That would be a good thing to do as well. Yep.
That's what they should also add to the plan.
Very good. Anything else, sir?
I don't think so.
All right, Vince, you're up.
So, I mean, I actually like the idea that they throw in their premium family protection pack for free, because it's normally about $10, I think. But it really is limiting the amount of contacts. Really is, like you guys said, a false sense of security, because as soon as somebody gets on Instagram, as soon as somebody gets on Facebook Messenger, we mentioned, as soon as somebody gets onto WhatsApp, they can have, and it's encrypted as well, so they can have access to chatting to anyone they like. And believe it or not, there are people out there who want to meet children. Okay, I won't go into that any further, but there are people out there who are actively seeking to meet children. And how is that going to be monitored? You'd have to pay very close attention to be able to monitor that. I mean, you're reading all their messages all the time. That's
hoping they don't delete them.
Yeah, exactly. And Snapchat does that by default. And you mentioned also the thing about tracking your kids' location. I think it was both Tom and Ben mentioned that. That is actually one of the big arguments that most people make for giving their kids a smartphone. But you have to think about how safe that is. Who else will then also be able to track your kid's location? You think you might be the only one, and you might think that you're safe in doing that. But there have been many instances in sort of situations where I've worked in, where separated parents, where one parent has custody of the child, and the child has a smartphone. The other parent, who doesn't have custody, has managed to find out where the child is, then go and find out where the mother is, who may have been separated because of violence issues and may have violence orders against the other parent, and be able to find out where they are now living. And there are some real safety issues there with smartphones, with GPSs and tracking locations. So we got to think long and hard about that. So
correct. And another point to throw in about that is location data on a phone is either all on or all off. And maybe on an iPhone it's a lot more granular, but I guess Android's getting better with that. But man, we're finding cases where even if you turn it all off, the apps are still harvesting data from the cell phone towers.
That's exactly right. Yeah, on my phone, I've noticed that it's always on. No matter if I turn it off, it seems to be always on.
Yeah, I mean, wrapping it in aluminum foil, that works well. Where's my hat? I need my hat. So that is that article. Let's see. So I think the next one we're going to dive into yours, Vince. So this is from The Conversation, which I have not seen this, and I really want to dig into this some more. We might be seeing more of this this place here. So this article came out in January, and they are referencing a JAMA article, which JAMA, if you're unaware, it's the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is the #1 scientific journal for physicians, and I think this is JAMA Pediatrics, right? And so it's basically looking at developmental periods of time, and what the kids are, how much screen time they're doing. And what they're finding is that the excessive amount of screen time definitely impacts the child development. Vince, well, go ahead and summarize this article as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to preface the article as well, this website is awesome because it's written by academics, and it goes into the actual news topics of the day and finds academic articles to write to support or not support arguments. And this article, I looked into it, it's actually written by the authors of that study.
Okay.
They're Canadian. And so what they did was they followed kids from 2 to 5 years old, and they separated them into different amounts of screen time. It was 2.4 hours, 3.6 hours, and 1.6 hours a day. And they found that when you start exposing kids from 2 years old to higher levels of screen time, their development, their actual physical and social and communicative development actually suffers significantly the more time you expose them to on screens. Now, they go into limitations of the study. So they said that what they can't still link is one thing causing another, or is there some other factor in between?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the limitations to look
Yeah.
at. But
so in other words, is it an observational study or a causative study, and we don't know?
Yeah,
and that's kind of.
But we need more data on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, I'm kind of hearing right that it's not the flu vaccine that gives you autism; it would be screen time. Should we have anti-screeners? We'll get into anti-screeners though. We are not going to end today before we get into anti-screeners. So that's kind of that's a fascinating article, and I guess so. This is just out in JAMA just a couple months ago. Are there any other thoughts you had on this before we dive into other comments?
It's probably something that we've all sort of suspected, but it's probably now confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
And they also go into some of the reasons why they think that could be. And one of the biggest things is it seems pretty obvious, but if someone's spending 3 hours a day on a phone, what are they missing out on? Mm-hmm. And that applies to all of us.
Yeah, and that's a very good argument that I've heard many times before, is that it's not necessarily what the social media does to you, it's what the lack of other things you would be doing doesn't do. So we used to, when we were kids, we would go outside and play. It was weird, but we didn't worry about cultists abducting us or getting lost somewhere in the three square meters of woods. We would disappear in the morning and show up for dinner somehow, and nobody I know of turned up missing. And that's kind of the thing. But yeah, that's definitely the case.
Tom, I think, was it the I think it was the beginning of I Am Not Amused. Is that when you talk about that, how you would basically just go out?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you talked about, and then you talked about
Correct.
the game consoles and everything. So how you basically would just go out and then return.
Yeah, book is too far away to grab it, but that's my book, I Am Not Amused, which is now on Audible and everywhere else, ebooks.
I know you talked about how they had those game stand things.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of
Yeah.
neat because I went out, if I could find the picture fast, I could find it, but I'd have to dig for it. But those Game Shacks, the one that we played at, which was just 2 blocks up from us. So we lived on a hill. This is in Meadville, and I think it was Roosevelt that passed the laws for lower income housing. And that hill that we lived on was the very first one of the developments that was built under that law. So it was just kind of up at the top of the hill, just kind of fanned out into these different little housing groups. And so we rented a little house up there. And then right at the top of the hill, there was one of those little parks. And we used to go up there and had a little green shack up there, and we'd get the games and play and things like that. Well, that shack and stuff is still there. In fact, if you go back on the channel and look at my very first outdoor philosophy, which was back, I think it was actually right about a year ago now. Or was that a year? No, that was a year. That was 2 years ago. But if you find the very first outdoor philosophy, that video was recorded in that park. So you can actually see what that park is I was talking about. And it's fascinating to see what the condition of the park is, because when we were there, it was perfectly manicured. We had all the kids' toys. We had slides and swings and monkey bars. There was a tennis court. There was a basketball court. And actually, I recorded that video from the middle of the basketball court that was overtaken with sumac trees. And so it's kind of fascinating to see that perspective. But those were the days we played outside, and that's what you're missing with a lot of this. And really, that was that last generation that played outside, because, in fact, I talk about the park closed the next year, which was it correlative or causative? That's when Nintendo Entertainment System came out. So that's that thought. Anything else, Quint?
No, I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was interesting.
And
I've only read that, like, one section of it, but I thought that was really interesting when I read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go have a look at that video too and see. You'll actually see that park. I actually do a tour.
Is it on the Switch to Linux channel?
Yeah, it's before I moved it over. So for you guys that liked the Outdoor Philosophy series, that series is alive and well. We just wrapped up talking about financial freedom. It's on my other channel, which you can find on the homepage of this channel. So you can go on over there and watch the rest of those. Ben, what's your thoughts on this part? Screen time, child development, things like that.
I completely messed it up. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. We will jump on over to the next article then. This one, I did not get a chance to read this one, Vince, so you're going to have to give us a summary. This is looking at screen time things. You want to go ahead and walk us through this one, Vince? Are you still there, Vince?
It's actually still just the same thing again.
Okay.
But it's a website that talks about actually giving parents guidelines.
Okay.
Practical guidelines about the amount of times. So the amount of time that an 18-month-old kid should be on is pretty much none, except if you're video chatting to a relative.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of time that an 18-month to 2-year-old can be on is only when a parent or another adult is watching with them, so they can explain to them what's going on.
So I can't just take my 2-year-old and put him up in front of Dora the Explorer all day. I can't.
As a babysitter, no.
Oh, man.
I mean, I've had parents say that the iPad's the best babysitter.
I know,
and I
just
cringe.
sad. Literally just give the iPad to your child and go to the store, and they'll still be playing it. Yeah. They haven't moved. Between
2 to 5 years old, 1 hour. Now, I've got to say, full disclosure, I have given my kids the iPad when I needed to do something, so there is some uses for it. This is an ideal situation that they try to promote, but it's very, very limited what we do.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that's not the rule. That's the exception, though, right?
No, and I was going to mention in the chat that, but I'll say it to you now. But Anna Rita was actually mentioning that in her daycare that she runs, she had to tell a parent that no, we don't allow iPads in this daycare, and I gave her a massive thumbs up. There are some days in our household where the TV doesn't even get turned on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I turn on my television for about 20 minutes every morning, Monday through Friday, when I do my workout, because I'll turn on something for. Right now, I'm going through a emergent church documentary through my exercise thing, and I'll flip through, find a documentary, find some TED Talks or something while I'm doing workout, just because the place I'm in now, I don't have a dedicated weight room anymore. that's worst thing about moving to this place. But,
Here, Tom,
yep.
was this the video that you were talking about right here? Is
Yes,
this it here?
that is it. That is it. Yep. So yeah, if you have a look at that video, that is actually that park I talked about in that. Yep. Windows 98 have changed.
Yeah, I said, was this one of those buildings?
That was the shack.
Yeah.
Yep. That was the shack. So you'll kind of see from that picture there. Sorry if you guys can't see it, but
Here, I'll put it in full screen.
okay. So, there's that little guy you see in the middle of the green wall. That was actually that was kind of the window where you went in and asked the kid for what he had. They had
This right here.
Yeah, so the thing was staffed by a teenager, and there were just a bunch of things in there, and they had stools, tables, and things inside there. That in the morning they'd come in. Yeah, so that was it, man. That was a weird place. If you scrub through that, you'll actually see I do a little work around through it a little bit. Of course, I spoofed. This was when I was doing distro reviews, so I kind of spoofed a Windows 98 review, right?
Yeah.
So it was quite epic. It was quite epic, but you can kind of see where you're at there. There's the basketball courts and things like that. So it's just kind of interesting to see what it turned into. Yeah, absolutely. So screen times. Quint, do your parents give you screen times? Have they throughout the years?
Yeah, we we don't really have many screen time limits now, but when we used to do a lot of that stuff. It's more we do more screen time stuff, like limits. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do more of that with my brother because he looks at his iPad a lot, and so we've done it more with him. I have to look at the computer pretty much at school a lot because that's where I do all my work.
Yeah, isn't it exciting? They're like, limit your screen time. You go to school and everything's computerized. Maybe we'll talk about that next. Let's table that moment and we'll come back to that. Okay. Anything else there?
Just on a previous point about development as well. One of the most important things that kids need to learn to develop is actually figuring out what to do for themselves, like figuring out what activities they want to do, using imagination to play. And if everything gets served to them on a screen, all the videos, all the games, they're losing that ability to actually figure things out, like you were talking about when you used to go to that park.
Yeah. And so that raises a fascinating question. They used to ask us, what do you want to do when you grow up? And, we would use our imaginations and play out all these scenarios and rest on the one we thought was the most fun, which was probably an unrealistic, view of what that job would have been. But at least we had something in our imagination to look at. So that's a valid point. Ben, your thoughts on all this?
Well, as far as like the screen time stuff, when I was a boy, it was the screens were all cathode ray tube, whether they were on a desktop or a television, and the only things that were, it was, Tom, you remember the laptops weighed 20 pounds and they had bad LCDs on them, and we didn't really have the internet. If you wanted to go inside and play a game, and frankly, that's what I did a lot of. If you were lucky, it was on CD. If you were unlucky, it was on a handful of floppies. And when you got bored of it or you rage quit the game, you had to go outside.
Yeah.
You couldn't. YouTube didn't exist. There was no streaming. Streaming was done, on the television.
Not to mention
if you had a cable connection.
Yeah, not to mention the quality of the movies that we had. Oh, bad. I have a couple of the old VHS tapes that, I just didn't get around to getting on DVD. And so I moved them back. I basically came back and recorded them through OBS just so I had a copy of them. They are so bad of quality because that's what we had at that time,
Well, those old VHS tapes, they ran, NTSC is 525 scan lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's broadcast TV is is technically better than DVD, but the television couldn't reproduce it.
Yeah.
And VHS was even worse.
Yeah. I need to jump on the comments. I'm getting yelled at for not following along on the comments, and my apologies, guys. So let's go ahead and look at the comments before I dive into the next article.
That happens a lot to me. I think it was on an open chat not too long ago. I got yelled at a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's all right. Because I should, and I do a really good job on the comments on most of them. It's just these ones I don't. Niece was 1.5 when she got her first tablet computer. Ugh. Ooh, 1.5. Of course, I've known families like that. Played outside, rode the bike, played sports. Yeah. Let's see. Daycare doesn't even have a TV. Nice. But you probably have a lot of books, I bet. Don't talk to strangers. Yes, don't talk to strangers, kids. You will get picked up by those cultists. They were telling us about those evil cultists hanging out in the woods, sacrificing children when I was young. We didn't care. We played in the woods anyway, so, you know. Sean got his first phone when he was 6. Got my first desktop 7. Nowadays, kids start getting their computers as young as 2 already. 6 years old, your first phone. I can't imagine. Was that a smartphone?
How far up is this comment?
About a third of the way up. That's Sean Roosevelt. Or Sean Roosevelt. Roosevelt. Yeah, Roosevelt. Sorry, man. I think it's awesome to have those devices in the classroom. Thought that Neverwhere project was good, aside from the fact it's Google. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny when we're talking about limiting screen time, and then you go into an academic setting and everything is screen time, and that's, to me, is a problematic, because as a former educator, you don't learn nothing on a screen. In fact, if you want to read the best book ever about how and why you don't learn from a screen, look at Neil Postman's book, Amusing Ourselves to Death, because he wrote this right around the time when, PBS was getting big and they started doing all these school programs. They cart the TV in. I think Ben will remember this one, right, Ben, from The American Kid, about my age. Roll in the TV, right? What's that?
The big AV cart that had the Laserdisc player?
Oh, well, ours didn't have that. We weren't fancy for that. We had VCRs on ours, and the big TV on the thing. They roll the thing in there and put in a reading rainbow, Yeah,
Geordie from Next Generation.
Yeah, there you go. So, it's... And then Neil Postman starts talking about why these don't actually help. The reason it doesn't help you learn is because, going back to, there was a guy at Howard University in 1962, maybe it was 56, I think. Name's Max Means. He was a professor of psychology who did all of his work on studying and learning. He released a book called, I think it was aptly called Studying and Learning, where he just did this amazing job looking at all of the research studies, how you learn and all these things. And in this book, he delineates the difference between recognition, understanding, memorization. So our modern view of education with all the technology does not in any way, shape, or form teach us to understand any material. It only teaches us recognition. And so as recognition jumps in, we get lost in what real knowledge is. We train for the test, which is, again, the tests we have are all about that very same thing. Pizza joined in. Greetings, pizza. So that is that. Kids grew up in different times. They didn't have smartphones or tablets, just desktop computers. They had learning games and had to use DOS commands, and they were probably better off for it. Let's see. Am I coming to Penguin Con? I don't know where Penguin Con is. Is that anything like Genghis Khan? Only it's a big Linux computer. This kid my age. I don't know. How old are you? Quint is... I don't know if you guys want to say their age or not. They are allowed if they want to. Is a woman or an... Okay, let's see. I think they're talking about you, Quint. Desktop. Okay. How'd he get onto this? This is a supporter stream. That's how he got onto this. Okay, I think technology is good in moderation. Definitely shouldn't be introduced as young as it is today. I agree. Pizza, when's your first time on technology? I think Pizza froze. Never mind. Yeah, I think he froze. Yep, there he went. Pizza just went away. All right. Linux Tech World is age 12. I was making 3D animations, not in Linux, however. It's 4 years is fine. Really don't see a reason to give a kid younger than 4 a smartphone. I don't see a reason to give a kid younger than 15 a smartphone, to be perfectly honest. You need a phone? Give him a dumb phone. Show me videos.
The other thing.
Go ahead.
The other thing that I was going to mention is that even like when these, like a lot of these kids, when they were, a lot of my classmates, when they were 5th grade, they got phones and they were like iPhones and stuff. Like their parents bothered to spend, like back then iPhones were more like $600, but they still bothered to spend all that money to get them an iPhone when they only really used so much of it. And they could have just gotten them either a really cheap Android phone or a dumb phone.
Yeah. The kids,
which I've never understood that. I'm 15 and I don't have an iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, yeah, it's, and that, like, and then they don't buy them, they don't spring for the extra $30 and put your $1,000 phone in the case. Do you not know what your children do to these phones, people? I mean, really. Let's see. It's born in 2001. Still didn't use much technology until I was about 6 or 7. 2 or 3 is crazy young. Yes. I remember, like, I think I was either 6 or 7. I think it was 1st grade. They sent us to the computer lab. Ben will remember the computer lab too, right? Go in there. You get the Mac E2s. I think you're muted, Ben. Yeah, I think Ben's muted.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, it was Apple IIe's, and the teacher had a Mac Classic.
Yeah, we had
our maybe computer it was a 64K.
Our computer lab. Did you guys play this game where it was trying to teach you how to type, and it was the Jackrabbit and the turtle, and you had to type turtle. I hated that game. I couldn't type. I couldn't write turtle.
What was it Loro, the name of the game where you would feed a series of coordinates to the thing and it would etch a sketch around?
I don't think I played that one. We did Qbert as well quite a bit, for the math. Yeah. Prime numbers.
There was a rocketry game that was pretty fun. It had
man, you must have went to a really good school because we didn't have any of that stuff.
They tried teaching us basic, and I remember most of it, but we were young.
Hello.
Greetings, Pizza. How's it going?
Can you hear me?
Hear me? Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, my computer's. I joined on my iPad. But the second I joined, the battery died. Literally as soon as I joined.
All right. So what was your first experience with technology, Pizza?
Wii probably. Wii Sports.
Okay. And how old were you?
Or an iPod Touch. I have no idea.
Okay. Too young to remember.
Probably when I was yeah.
How old were you when you got your first phone?
13.
Okay.
Well,
yes.
Actually, I got my first phone that I can make calls with when I was 13. That Windows phone I bought from a garage sale was when I was 12, and I had an iPhone 3G when I was 12, and when I was young I had an iPod Touch, which I used as a gaming device.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, kind of getting into the technology younger and younger, like most people are. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 13 also when I got my first phone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught this earlier in the chat.
When I got the iPod Touch.
I don't know if you caught this when we were talking earlier, but everyone else in my grade had gotten all my classmates, they had all gotten a phone when they were in 5th grade, and I didn't. I was that one person who didn't have a phone.
I was the same way. It took me so long to convince my parents to get me an actual phone. And then that phone boot looped. And then I had to convince them to get me another phone.
All right. So this guy says the reason he got his first phone at age 6 was so his parents could call when they came to get me at school. Vince, what's your thought on that comment?
I was just going to say to Peter and Quinn, if my kid came to me begging for a phone, that's my first warning that something is up, and that would be my first thing that I've been thinking about. But at 6, I mean, I plan to give my daughter a phone at some stage, but it will definitely be a dumb phone. I'm just not in favor of having her access to data at that age.
Yeah.
The main reasons I wanted a phone was so I could have something to do, watch YouTube, and also film, because I have the crappy camcorder that I used to use for Save or Smash, but I wanted a video camera, I wanted to be able to watch YouTube, and I wanted to be able to do a little bit of texting with some of my friends.
That's really a lot of the stuff that I do on a phone is I take a lot of pictures. I basically take pictures. That's why I need a good camera. That's why I can't have like a super cheap phone. And I basically I text people a lot, and that's pretty much it. I look at email, and that's pretty much about it.
Yep.
Okay,
I got to the bottom of the comments, guys, so that means we are about time to jump on to our last article for the day. All right, so our last article for the day this is a fascinating one. This is right about a year ago, February 18th, 2018. Silicon Valley parents are raising their kids tech-free, and it should be a red flag. Yeah, absolutely. So these are, of course, this kind of follows the family of I think the mother works at Apple and the father used to work at Google. I imagine, man, I wonder how this happened. Like, you've got to quit your job, husband, or, because Apple versus Google thing. But one of them was an Apple guy. One of them was a Google thing. Actually, he left Google and they started their own startup. And so what they're saying is that they allow to have, Vince, I want your opinion on this. They allow their kids 10 minutes of screen time per week. What do you think about that, Vince?
Honestly, why, if you, sorry, I was switching devices when you said that. You said 10 minutes per
That's
week.
not
Yeah, go
Why
ahead,
would
Vince.
you even give them...
too bad.
What?
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
Why would you even...
We're going with Vince. Vince
oh.
first.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
sorry. He cut out, so I thought he was letting me go.
That's fine. Yep.
It also depends how old the kid.
Yeah, he is. You are cutting out a lot of it,
Cutting,
Vince. Go ahead, Pizza. Go ahead.
It depends on 10 go pizza.
Why even give him screen time in the first place if you're only going to give him 10 minutes a week?
All right, Ben. 10 minutes of screen time. Good, bad, and different.
I'm with Pizza on this one.
Yeah. Why bother?
It might as well be 0.
All right,
Am
quit.
I coming in better
good.
now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Go ahead, Vince.
Okay. I was saying that. I mean, the number is a bit arbitrary. Even 1 hour is a bit arbitrary. It really depends on what they're doing and how you're monitoring it, and whether you are explaining to them what they're seeing. I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Quinn. 10 minutes. What do you think?
Really, I feel like it should either be none or at least an hour. Because I feel like if they're going to get 10 minutes and then they're going to be jealous of all their friends who are like, my parents let me have like 5 hours a day or something.
Unfettered access.
And they're like, my parents only let me have 10 minutes a week. And then they're going to go home asking their parents, why can't I have more? Why can't I have more? Why can't I have more?
Yeah.
That's exactly... Sorry. I was going to say that's exactly why I wanted a phone. Because everyone else had a phone, and that made me feel left out.
That's
so pretty much the same.
So I think that 10 minutes a week is probably a little low in our current culture, where technology isn't all bad. I'm not a Luddite, but we do have to recognize a balance, and it's kind of like this argument. I was having this discussion with somebody. Do you think that X, Y, or Z thing is so bad because of the stigma around it? And I think that pushes the envelope too far the other way. So we are in a culture where technology is so prevalent. With technology being so prevalent, is it not better to give them a little bit of time? We started the analogy talking about, safely handling a firearm. If you're a backwoods hick in America, I'm sorry if you're overseas and you don't understand this, but a backwoods hick in America, every one of them's got a gun. Okay, I used to live in a state that was so pro-gun, everybody carried a gun. Like open carry was common in our city. And we didn't even have to have permits. As long as you lived in the state for 6 months, had no violent crimes, and had a valid driver's license, you could carry a gun all you wanted. We actually had no ordinance about where you could shoot it as long as you were outside city limits, and the muzzle was pointed away from city limits. So literally, we'd go out into the fields and shoot away from the city. I had my own favorite spot. No shooting rangers needed. We had zero problems with it because everyone was so well trained. The parents would take their kids out and teach them how to properly and safely use this device. And it becomes the same with technology because it can be dangerous. And so we need to teach and train them. 10 minutes a week is ridiculous. Give them an hour a day. And as Vince was saying, talk to them about what they're seeing. Talk to them about what they're doing. Things like that. All right, we got a backward hick on here. Backward hick can confirm, right?
One other thing though is I feel like at first I feel like they should not allow kids technology at all until they know stuff like how not to get a virus, how not to teach them data collection and how that works, how these companies make money, and teach them that everything they put on the internet is permanent.
Yes.
I feel like that not anybody shouldn't be allowed on the internet until they know those 3 rules.
I think that's
I don't know if
good thing. Good.
I told you about this, Tom, that there was this guy who came to our school and talked about like the dangers of the internet and everything to a bunch of high schoolers.
Oh, that would never happen at my school because I'm in Microsoft Town.
Yeah, and then they were but the thing is he said I told you the thing that he said about how if your phone can receive calls and texts, it's connected to the cloud. And I was trying to help it, but I was gonna burst out laughing. And but one of the things he doesn't talk about any of the data collection. And then the thing he gives everybody webcam stickers as gifts. And I'm like, and then everybody asked me, Quint, why don't you put a sticker on your webcam? I feel like you would be the person who would do that because you like computers and everything. And I'm like, no, I don't put a sticker on my webcam because I don't download random software from sketchy sites. That's what they need to teach kids. Wow. They need to teach kids not to download software from sketchy sites and not get viruses. And then they won't have. Don't just tell them to put these webcam stickers on and then go download whatever you want.
There you go. Because
you don't really need a webcam sticker if you're running Linux because there isn't really any software for webcam stickers.
I'd probably still do it out of abundance of caution. Ben, we're going to jump over to you. Hold on. Ben, we're going to jump over to you. What's your thoughts on what Pizza said? Teach kids how to be safe on the internet before we give them unfettered access.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good rule. That was one of when I was probably their age, Pizza's age, it was a desktop at the time, but not unfettered access to it at all hours, but close enough. And the big rule was don't interact with the internet.
Yeah.
Don't, you know what I mean?
Never put your real name on the internet.
Right. Yeah. Don't, if you want to read forums, don't post to forums. We didn't have, Reddit didn't exist yet. There were BBSs, of course, but, web forums, don't go to chat room, just that sort of stuff. And, don't talk to people you don't know. If you want to go and read Wikipedia, if you want to go learn how to do something, or if you want to, that's fine. Do that all you want. But, and using the analogy you brought up with firearms, I think that's, that goes nicely with the power tools earlier and all the other stuff. Learn how to use the tool that you have because that's what your smartphone is.
Yeah. Correct. Vince, thoughts on this comment? Hold on, we're going to go to Vince first.
Yeah, and as a parent, that we're really all time poor, and we don't have the time to necessarily sit down with our kids to teach them all that stuff. But with important this stuff is, you've got to sit down with them. If
You're cutting out again.
Yeah, it must be raining.
Yeah, it's raining.
At first, I thought it was just.
Is that any better?
Yeah, a little bit.
I would have. At first, I thought it was just because I'm using Firefox instead of Chrome now.
No, I'm on Firefox too. It seems to be working fine for me. All right.
I found that if I hold onto the screen of my laptop where the antenna is, I'll probably get better reception.
Are you on your Mac again?
No.
All right, go ahead.
How important this stuff is. We've just got to make time to teach the kids why we can be so time poor, but we're just going to make the time to do so.
Correct. And Steve has a great comment here. Teach them how not to wind up on how to catch a predator. That's a very important thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now another thing, I think I debated this in another open chat, but the topic is just very similar to this what I'm about to say. I feel like COPA kind of limits a lot of what people under 13 can do, and I feel like that if you take a test showing that you know how to use the internet, then you should be able to appeal it with your parents' permission.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that as long as it's the choice of the people.
Yeah.
Quint, I think you have
As long as it's
hold on. Look, give Quint's had the floor.
Okay.
I don't think COPA works at all because a lot of the times, in order to be COPA compliant, you just have to put a box in that you select your age. Everyone I know lies about their age. And so I don't think COPA works at all. I think you need to be able to provide more than an age or a birthday. You need to provide something to show that you're just not lying about it, because those two things are really, really easy to lie about.
And
that raises the issue, though, if they want now an ID. I ain't giving some random company my ID.
That's what I was about to say.
That is the downside to that. I just thought about that also.
All right. So
how about some 10th grade algebra questions to answer before you can actually get on?
There you go. Here's 10 pennies. How many are new? How many are old, right? All right. So let's go ahead and do our final wrap up so I can chat with these guys offline for a little bit. And just a reminder, guys, that I will be on my other channel tonight in 1 hour. We'll be live streaming on my Christian channel. And we're going to be talking about the gospel and social reform. So you can jump on over there if you are interested in that topic in about an hour. So, Ben, final wrap up.
So,
and give us an age. When is too young?
12, 10? Let's say 10.
All right.
So, I mean, you should be able to know how to type. How about that?
Mm-hmm. On a keyboard or with your thumbs?
On a keyboard. Yeah, no thumbs.
All right.
No, a toddler can play Nintendo, but they can't type.
Okay. All right.
Just starting with the article that that you sent out with the Verizon thing. With these, kid specific, easy for parents, wireless plans. I think that's not useless, but it's pretty close to useless. It has a couple saving graces. It is slightly cheaper, if nothing else. Mm-hmm. I think that's a lot of management that doesn't need to happen, and the better use of your time is probably to parent your children, though I don't have any, so that's difficult for me to say and easy for me to say. Or that's easy. That's too easy for me to say, I should say.
Yeah. Pizza, final thoughts, and how young is too young?
I don't think they should be a specific age. I just think that too young is if you're not smart enough to know that the internet is dangerous. So if you're like a 40-year-old dude and you don't know what data collection is, you don't know how to not get a virus, stuff like that, then you shouldn't be on the internet.
Okay, very good.
But I also think that we should teach kids about data collection. Like I said, everybody at school right now, they all have iPhone 10s with AirPods and Apple Watches. I can't think of one person at my school who has an Android phone, except for people who
Wow.
are poor and can't afford an iPhone. But I can't think of one rich kid who has an iPhone, or doesn't have an iPhone,
Yeah.
or Air. But I just feel like I don't know. I just think that people should know common sense before going on the internet. And
Absolutely.
also, I think I don't know if you talked about this because I was at Domino's, obviously. But another thing is I don't think we should be giving kids smartwatches that can track locations because tracks locations. What if one of them gets hacked and then a sexual predator knows everywhere your kid is?
That's a huge concern. In fact, that's Germany's big reason why they ban that kind of stuff, which is a very valid point.
Oh, really? Germany bans that? Cool.
Quinn.
My parents made me have one of those until I accidentally broke it. Accidentally.
Yeah, sure. All right, Quinn. How young is too young, and what's your final thoughts?
I honestly think 13 is the minimum. I honestly think that if you don't give kids phones under 13, they'll probably develop a better common sense about the internet and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of to add on to what Pizza was saying is that everyone I know, a lot of my friends at school, they have iPhones, Apple Watches, and AirPods. I do know several people who have Androids. But the majority of people have iPhones. And I just don't understand it. And everybody thinks that Androids are for poor people in my school. And I keep telling them, well, you can do all sorts of stuff on it that you can't do with an iPhone. And they still just are like, Androids are for poor people.
The only Android phones.
People, yeah.
The only Android phones people have are budget Android phones. So like the Galaxy J series, those Alcatel ones, those cheap LG ones.
man, I got
I'm
one of
over
them.
here for Nokia.
I actually do know someone. I know there's people who I know have Androids. There are a few people who have the cheaper Android phones, but I do know someone who has an S9 because their parents were Android users and they just got their child the same phone that they had.
The only person I
hold
know
on.
who doesn't have
We need to wrap this up. Vince, are you still there? I'm not sure if you're there or not.
Yeah, it's still
okay.
here. I turned up my video just to see if it's any better.
it is way better.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Give us your what's too young and final thoughts on this.
So my daughter is very mature for her age, but I'm definitely planning about 12, and even at that age, probably still a dumb phone first. See how she handles that.
Get her a Nokia
prove
3310.
Yeah, prove herself, and then maybe a smartphone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So there's an interesting discussion point around youth and tech. When is young too young? Just a lot of good questions, a lot of good discussion around the point, and it's just to get you thinking. I mean, we're not Luddites completely anti-tech, but at the same time, we have to think about it because a technological device, be it a computer for a classroom, a tablet, a phone, a video game, anything, any technological device can be very good and can be very dangerous. So those are kind of our final thoughts. Let's see if there's a cat in the room. There is a cat in the room, and that means we need to feed the kitty. Come on up. And then once we get the kitty fed, then we will jump off. Come on. Come on, buddy. Yeah. All right, buddy. All right. So we'll feed the kitty, and then what we'll do is we will wrap up. So I'll hang out with these guys for a little while offline. Right here, buddy. Oh boy. Just give them 2 because I have another stream tonight too. So. All right. And let me go ahead and I'm going to drop that link in there again. So if you guys want to join me in a little under an hour at the other channel for a live stream over there, you can go ahead and do that. Did it? It didn't. It gave me an error. I was not able to post my link. Paste.
Oh yeah, I have an idea.
Dude.
I have an idea for your cooking channel.
It is not allowing me to post a link. Let's test this. Test.
Here, send it to me and I can see if I can post it.
I posted it earlier. Well, this is hilarious. I can't post comments. Thanks.
I can post
Thanks,
links.
Ben. I'm not able to post links to my own comment right now. What's going on? Was I banned? Was I banned by myself? Hello? Yeah, I can't post links. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. Thanks for coming along. Join us again next week, and we will catch you later.